I'm talking to Natalia Beylis of the Ghastly Grimey Orchestra of New Orleans, who put out an album in 2006 on City Press Records. That album was recorded in New Orleans in 2002. What were you doing there?
I'd moved to New Orleans late in 2001 with my husband, and it was just a place we'd always wanted to go. You kind of, think of it as one of the sort of last frontiers of America, somewhere doesn't really quite fit into the rest of the country, and the both of us always thought it'd be a laugh to move down there. So we moved down there for a year in November 2001.
Okay. The album is a subject or a theme about Edward Gorey, the graphic artist. Can you explain about Edward Gorey and where you came with the idea?
When I was living in Pittsburgh, somebody gave me a present of a poster of Edward Gorey's alphabet, the Ghastly Grimey. Edward Gorey was an illustrator, an American illustrator, who was born in 1925 in Chicago, and he illustrated and wrote over 100 books in his life. They all have a very unique style. A lot is black ink on white paper, sort of very simple style. And I used to stare at this poster that somebody gave me of the Ghastly Grimey all the time. The book that the poster was taken from is a book. It's an alphabet, and it goes from A to Z. And for each letter of the alphabet, a child dies. So A is for Amy, who fell down the stairs, and the illustration is of a girl kind of sailing down a set of stairs. So I used to sit and stare at this poster constantly, and eventually I started getting, in New Orleans I had this up on my wall, and I got inspired to start writing music to go along with the poster.
I'm just going to play a track from the album now. It's track B. So the band itself, how did they get together? How did you meet those people?
When we moved to New Orleans, there was as there still is, but at the time there was a really vibrant scene of kind of scrappy kids. I guess you could call them, like people who were sort of doing art and music and anything really, kind of putting on events and doing puppet shows and street performance and street art. And these people were sort of all around, and the place is just, there's something about New Orleans that is really inspiring and is really creative and is kind of dark and is kind of grimy, and we just kind of, once we moved down there, my husband and I started getting to know a lot of these people, sort of lived all over the city. And once I got this idea to start writing songs to go along with the alphabet, I said it to a few people, and people got really excited about the idea. It was in the summer, and in New Orleans in the summer, a lot of people live there, go away during the summer because they can go other places and make a good bit of money doing seasonal fruit picking or kind of seasonal summer jobs. And it's also really hot and humid down in New Orleans in the summer. So a lot of the people we had met had gone away, and it was sort of just a few people would stay down for the whole summer. And it was from this crew of people that we started pooling together members to record songs.
I just want to ask about how you recorded the album, and I heard there was some rules involved.
Pretty much we'd get together. There was a few people that were on a lot of the songs. I was on most of the songs, and I was there for almost every recording, pretty much everyone. And then Don Godwin and John Gherkin were both really heavily involved with it, so they'd be there a lot as well, and kind of would decide on a day to get together and start calling people and saying, oh, you know, you want to get together in someone's house or in a warehouse and try to record a song or a few songs. And John or Don would sort of start asking other people, or I'd ask other people who were around at the time. And you'd get together, everyone would sort of look around the room at everything that was there, instruments, kids' toys, typewriters. People would look at the poster, which ended up getting really battered and torn by the end because it traveled around with me to all these places, and would pick a letter and say, okay, I really want to, I'm inspired by letter K, which would be like K is for Kate, who was struck with an axe, and it's just a little girl who's been killed by an axe. And then that person might start something, or everyone might kind of decide on what to do and pick an instrument or something to play in the room, and then would write it, play it through once, and then record it once, and that was it. It was all done in an evening, pretty much just a single recording take, unless someone came into the room, let's say, or you know, a dog started barking, but sometimes that was left in as well.
And in fact, that track K has an interesting, would you like to explain how that was recorded?
That particular letter, K, is for Kate, who was struck with an axe. We recorded that in a warehouse space called Noe Miasto. It was a warehouse with 3 floors, and quite a few of our friends lived there at the time. It was sort of a place with a venue and a small library, and people came and went through the space often. There was a freight elevator in the middle of the warehouse with a floor and no walls, so it was pretty much just an open elevator that you had to get inside to move and pull the ropes on to move the elevator up and down. Down at the ground floor, there was a piano right next to the elevator shaft. So what we did was we had John Gherkin had a mini disc recorder, which he put up at the very top of the ropes of the pulley system of the elevator. He kind of climbed up and just stuck it up there. I sat downstairs at the piano. Inside the elevator was a man playing saw named Andy Neubauer and a woman playing the violin named Annika Lockman. John turned on the mini disc recorder, ran down all the flights of stairs, jumped in into the freight elevator, and started pulling the ropes of the elevator. So when it starts, you can hear the piano just traveling up through all the floors of the building, up through the elevator shaft, and you can hear Annika and Andy playing the saw and the violin in the elevator itself. And as John's pulling up on the first floor, Willie and Michael Tuttle are standing there. Willie's playing a bamboo xylophone, and Michael was playing a stand-up bass. So when the elevator moves up, the sound of the piano sort of drowns out, and you can sort of start hearing the sound of the bamboo xylophone and the stand-up bass. And then eventually when the elevator moves up, it closes off the shaft, and so that sound drowns out as well. And then the violin and the saw just get closer and closer and closer and closer up to the top of the elevator. The really interesting thing was, we didn't plan it this way, but when they got to the top of the elevator, the song stopped, and then a few seconds after it, before John had a chance to turn off the recorder, the elevator hit the top of the pulley system, and it made this great noise, this just chopping noise, which went perfectly in the silence with the thought of K is for Kate, who was struck with an axe.
And I'm going to play K so we can hear exactly what you just explained very well.